AI agents are everywhere, automating tasks and making decisions at machine speed. But agents make mistakes. Just one rogue agent can do big damage before you even notice. Rubrik Agent Cloud is the only platform that helps you monitor agents, set guardrails, and rewind mistakes, so you can unleash agents, not risk. Accelerate your AI transformation at Rubrik.com. That's RUBRIK.com.
If you're the purchasing manager at a manufacturing plant, you know having a trusted partner makes all the difference. That's why, hands down, you count on Grainger for auto reordering. With on-time restocks, your team will have the cut-resistant gloves they need at the start of their shift. And you can end your day knowing they've got safety well in hand. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Happy holidays! Want to give your host a gift? Consider subscribing, rating, and reviewing the show this holiday season. It really helps the show grow. From all of us at Believe, have a Merry Christmas, everyone, and a Happy Holiday.
Hello, and welcome to Around the Political World with John Rothman. I am your host, John Rothman. If you're a fan of the show, make sure to hit the follow button on the top right of Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are listening at this very moment. When you hit follow, leave a review or share an episode with a friend. It helps other people discover the show, keeps us going, so I like to point out each and every day, it expands our base. I want to speak this morning about several issues. First, I want to begin with a speech that the president gave last night. Did you listen to the president's words? It was a rambling discourse. He did not stick to his script, which most assuredly must have upset the members of the White House staff. And fundamentally, what he was trying to do was to say all the problems in the economy are the fault of the Democrats and Joe Biden. And of course, he wanted to assert once again that, in fact, he won the election of 2020. The election was stolen. Cheating, of course. Now, all of this is going on while we face tremendous economic problems. And the President of the United States cannot continue to blame everybody else. By the way, if you listen to him, we not only have a A rating, we have a AA rating. In fact, I think he said 4 times A plus rating. And when you listen to Donald Trump, you have to stop and think, what planet does he live on? What world does he live on? Because the reality is that prices are up. All you have to do is go to the supermarket to see it. It's very clear. And tariffs, the question of tariffs. Why is the president now giving $12 billion to farmers in America? And the reason is because his tariff policy is failing. Because his tariff policy is causing farmers even greater anguish. My concern today in dealing with this question is beyond the question of the economy and even beyond something else. Did you hear last week that a document has been released by the administration, a strategy for U.S. security? This strategy for U.S. security is really based on the fact that he believes that our European allies are failing. Why? Their immigration policies, their declining birth rate, their censorship of free speech, as he calls it. But most important to Donald Trump is the fact that Europe is failing, and that, well, the very positions that he has believed in, and you can see it from his own immigration policy, favoring European white people coming to the United States. There is something fundamentally flawed on so many levels with this president. And even those of you who support Donald Trump, and there are many of you who listen to my podcast who support him, can you not see the problem? Let me put it this way. the Trump corollary to the Monroe Doctrine, to restore American preeminence in our own hemisphere. Do you remember your history? In 1823, the Monroe Doctrine, formulated by President James Monroe, was originally aimed at opposing any European meddling in the Western Hemisphere, and it was used to justify American policy for years, particularly dealing with Latin America. The president's strategy, this document, says that it aims to combat drug trafficking and control migration. And let me explain something to you. What Donald Trump is doing is, well, just horrific. There is no question about it. Here he is once again going after nations in the world that he doesn't like. Do you remember, and I've never forgotten this, the statement he made about immigration to the United States when he talked about the blood of the United States being polluted by immigration? Anyone listening to the sound of my voice who is the grandson or son or granddaughter or grandson of anyone here who is part of the immigration movement must know that all of us didn't pollute America. We strengthened America. This is something very important. Now, it turns out that in the House of Representatives, the Republican chairman of the Appropriate Committee is now saying he's not going to proceed to investigate what happened when we blew a boat out of the water and then went back and killed 2 survivors. And in fact, the President of the United States has said he doesn't really care if it's released or not. It's up to the Secretary of Defense, who he calls the Secretary of War. And of course, there is something there that they don't want us to see. Let me be clear about my feelings about all of this. We must understand that when the armed forces are used to implement a president's strategy to use our Army, our Navy, our Air Force on personal vendettas, I think we are making a serious error. Now, the United States, according to the president's strategy, should abandon, and I want to quote directly, America's misguided experiment with hectoring nations in the Middle East, especially monarchies in the Gulf, about their traditions and forms of government. It says we should encourage and applaud reform when and where it emerges organically without trying to impose it. Do you understand what the president is saying? What his administration is saying? That human rights violations in the Middle East should be ignored because, well, the president thinks it's the right thing to do. I still am staggered by the fact that the president ignored the murder of Khashoggi and, in fact, invited the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia to the White House with full honors, the man who no doubt was responsible for the butchering of a journalist. Do you grasp what it means for American democracy? When the president says we should encourage and applaud reform when and where it emerges organically without trying to impose it, what he's really saying is, if it's in our national interest, we're going to ignore human rights abuses. Congressman Jason Crow of Colorado, who is a Democrat, who sits on the House Committee overseeing intelligence and the armed forces, called this strategy, and I quote him directly, catastrophic to America's standing in the world and a retreat from our alliances and partnerships. The world will be a more dangerous place and America will be less safe if this plan moves forward. I agree with Congressman Crow. What the president is proposing is wrong. The administration is sharply critical of our democratic allies in Europe. He is saying that those nations are failing. And why are they failing? The argument is being made, and I said it once, but I want to say it again so you hear it, that the United States is, well, clear. Europe is being enfeebled by its immigration policies, declining birth rates, meaning fewer white people, censorship of free speech, which, by the way, is not true. And he suggests, the president suggests in this strategy that Europe is retreating, is being removed from serious consideration because of its policies. There is something fundamentally wrong when the president disses our European allies. Now, some of you will say, well, there are changing demographics in Europe. And there are. There have always been changing demographics in Europe. And there have always been changing demographics in the United States of America. Remember, this is a nation of immigrants. We all come from somewhere. And the simple truth is we have built a great nation because we have accepted and cultivated a philosophy of what America is. And we never regarded race, religion, or political attitudes, because our feeling was that being exposed to the United States of America, living in the United States of America, growing up in this great country, we would all be okay. Now, my friends, this is the first national security strategy, a document the administration is required by law to release. And no one is looking at it. No one understands the true racist implications of what this national security strategy means. I'd like to know who wrote it. I'd like to know where the Secretary of State and National Security Advisor to the President, Marco Rubio, stands on this. I want to know when the President speaks about an American first philosophy which favors non-intervention overseas and questions our relationship with our European allies. What is our reaction? Oh, I know we're preoccupied with the questions surrounding our economy, and rightly so. But our economic interests are integrated with those of our allies. Look what we've done to Canada. Look what we've done to Mexico. Look what we have started doing to our European allies. There is something fundamentally wrong in this administration. Now, I know that some of you will say, John, you say this almost every day, and you're right. I do. I say it, my friends, because what is happening in Washington today is terrible. And when, as we saw yesterday, the president takes the show on the road, repeating himself with absolutely ridiculous comments, one has to wonder about whether the president really understands what's going on. Now, let me explain. We elect a president to lead. We do not, during the course of a president's term, make any judgment about whether he has the right to lead. But we have a right, as an American people, to figure out whether he's leading in the wrong direction. Look what happened in Miami. They elected a Democratic mayor. The Republican, who was endorsed by Trump and DeSantis, was defeated overwhelmingly because the people of Miami, which, by the way, Florida, basically a Republican state now, understand the implications. Will the Republican Party wake up and understand they're losing elections because this president's policies are not consistent with the views of a majority of Americans? And will we wake up to the fact that we are not better off than we were 4 years ago or 1 year ago? There is a simple reality here, in my mind. Donald Trump's proposals for economic policy, for U.S. security strategy, his so-called American First philosophy, is really the antithesis of everything we should be supporting. The more the president goes out on the road, the more he speaks, the more the American people will have a chance to really judge whether or not he's leading us in the right direction. My own view is that the American people are going to reject Donald Trump's vision. They are going to reject, may I say, we are going to reject what is clearly a policy that is not good for America, whether it is an economic policy or a security strategy. But these issues need to be debated and discussed. Frankly, I hardly hear them being debated, and they must be. And so when you turn to Around the Political World with John Rothman, I am raising these questions. I do want to say, without any question, that I regret that this is not interactive. Oh, it's true. You can give your point of view by going to Apple Podcasts. You can drop a comment on YouTube or Spotify. You can click any of the links to the show notes to connect with me on social media. You can email me directly. But the simple truth is, the dynamic of our interacting, of our discussing, of our debating these issues, well, it's very limited now without the vehicle of talk radio. And although I value what we are doing here on this podcast, I want to reflect with you emphatically that we are all the losers because we don't have the vehicle of talk radio which we once had. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Around the Political World with John Rothman. As I said, I'd love to hear your thoughts on today's episode. You can write me a review on Apple Podcasts. You can drop a comment on YouTube or Spotify. You can click any of the links for the show notes to connect with me on social media. And please do share this episode with a friend or colleague, whether you agree or disagree with my point of view. Can we have that discussion? Can we have that debate? Yes, let's have that argument. This show has been getting so much positive attention that we're excited to bring on advertising support. It will help us create more opportunities for Around the Political World, and, well, I'm very happy about that. I hope you will let your friends know about this podcast. And I want to say a special word of thanks to Gogo Zoger, the wonderful producer of this program. Gogo makes sure every day that we are up and running. Gogo, thank you so much. And to all of you, I'll be back tomorrow with another episode of Around the Political World with John Rothman. See you then.
Happy holidays! Want to give your host a gift? Consider subscribing, rating, and reviewing the show this holiday season. It really helps the show grow. From all of us at Believe, have a Merry Christmas, everyone, and a Happy Holiday. If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.